When police entered the house in Binningen, Switzerland, the silence was heavy. No forced entry. No screams. No blood on the walls. Just a laundry room and a bin bag. Inside that bag was a head. Eyes wide. Mouth open. Hair matted. She wasn't missing. She wasn't out running errands. Kristina Joksimovic was home. And her killer was making dinner upstairs. A beauty queen. A mother of two. A national finalist in Miss Switzerland 2007. And yet, she died in the most unthinkable way. Not just killed. Not just discarded. She was dismembered with tools from a workshop. Her bones were sliced. Her organs removed. And some of her ended up in a blender. What do you do with the woman you once kissed at the altar, when you decide her life is worth nothing? Mark Reben didn't stab his wife. He didn't shoot her. He choked the life out of her with his bare hands. Then he cut her up. Piece by piece. Quietly. While their daughters slept. And when her father came looking, Mark invited him to dinner. It was only when Kristina's father walked down into the basement, alone, that the truth came spilling out of plastic. There are crimes that make you angry. There are crimes that leave you cold. And then there are crimes that do something else entirely. They don't feel real. They don't feel possible. Because something inside us wants to believe, no one would do this. But someone did. This is the story of Kristina Joksimovic. Her smile lit up magazine covers. Her murder stained every room in her home. And her husband made sure no part of her was left untouched. He turned her body into pulp. Some of her was in the sink. Some of her in the bin. And some was dissolved in a chemical bath. This isn't fiction. This isn't a legend told around campfires. This is real. And every part of it is worse than the last. This is Bruised Voice. If you have the strength to keep watching, subscribe. Like. Comment where you're watching from. Because what you're about to hear will not leave you the same. Kristina Joksimovic earned the title of Miss Northwest Switzerland in 2007 and became a finalist in the National Miss Switzerland pageant at age 21. She built a life in Binningen, just outside Basel, a mother of two daughters aged 3 and 4, a respected catwalk coach, and a mentor known for her warmth, discipline, and generosity toward aspiring models. She led workshops, from posture training to foot volleyball, that defined her identity as a leader who empowered others. Kristina's social media showed vacations by Lake Lucerne and happy family dinners, conveying what looked like the perfect picture of domestic life. But behind that image, tension was building. Months before she died, Kristina reportedly filed a domestic violence complaint. A former partner accused her husband, Mark Reben, then aged 41, of choking her and slamming her head against a wall. That complaint was dismissed without action or protection. Neighbors and colleagues remembered Mark as calm, courteous, composed, a man who tucked his daughters into bed and hosted family dinners as though nothing was wrong. No one considered he might carry murderous intent. Her father described Kristina as creative and full of life, always planning something new. On the night he came looking for her, he expected to see her smiling face. Instead, he discovered her severed head in a black bin bag in the laundry room, hair still attached and unmistakably hers. Just weeks before that night, Kristina had shared images of a romantic family holiday, her laughing with her husband and children. 4 weeks later, she was missing, and shortly after, investigators found her body shredded, blended, and partly dissolved in chemicals. On February 13, 2024, Swiss authorities confirmed Kristina's death by strangulation. The autopsy revealed no defensive wounds and evidence she offered no resistance. Her husband initially told police he found her dead and dismembered her in panic. But forensic evidence quickly refuted that version. Investigators found tool marks on bones consistent with use of a jigsaw, knife, and garden shears used in the laundry room. Some tissue was processed in a hand blender, then dumped into a chemical solution, destroying most living evidence of her body. Mark later admitted to killing her, claiming she attacked him with a knife and he acted in self-defense. That claim collapsed under medical examination, no wounds on him, no knife injuries traced to Kristina, no signs of a struggle. Prosecutors described Mark as showing exceptionally calculated violence, a startling lack of empathy, and cold-blooded murder. Investigators also noted previous signs of unaddressed abuse in the home, the warning signs that went unnoticed until it was too late. Fellow Miss Switzerland title holders and industry colleagues expressed grief. Krista Ragazzi called Kristina beautiful and kind-hearted, especially mourning what her daughters would never know. Many noted media coverage focused on the horror of her death, not the woman she had been. This is more than her background, it's the transformation from beauty queen to victim, from influencer to homicide statistic. The life she lived was erased piece by piece inside her own home. The next chapter will chronicle how the crime was reconstructed, what investigators uncovered moment by moment, and whether justice can ever heal. Kristina had begun quietly preparing to leave. She had confided in close friends that Mark demanded she quit her career coaching models and focus only on the household. She refused. In recent months she made travel bookings in her own name, held secret conversations with parent friends, and began quietly separating her finances. Meanwhile, Mark's behavior shifted behind closed doors. He accused her of planning an affair. He monitored her phone. Friends noted his tone became chilly each time she insisted on independence. Police files later confirmed Kristina had attempted a formal complaint, recalling one incident where Mark allegedly choked her until she lost consciousness. He slammed her head into a wall. That complaint was dismissed without follow-up. Investigators would later say it was a lost opportunity to prevent what came next. On the evening of February 12, 2024, Mark carried out the attack in total silence. Kristina entered the basement laundry room, and he strangled her with his bare hands. Forensic testimony later confirmed she had no defensive wounds. She never raised arms, never kicked. The pressure was applied for minutes, long enough to cut off consciousness but silent enough to go unnoticed upstairs. When she collapsed, Mark dragged her body deeper into the room. Then began the method that would horrify investigators and traumatize her survivors. First, he used a jigsaw to cut through bone. A clean, clinical motion that severed limbs. Next, garden shears sliced through joints. Finally, knives carved tissue away from frame. Each tool mark was deliberate, targeted. He separated her head, placing it in a black plastic bag, hair still flowing. In the corner, he laid out a hand blender. Clinic-like storage bins held small containers of chemical agents, most likely bleach or a corrosive solution. Over the next hour he fed chunks of flesh, muscle, and interior organs into the blender. The machine whined, turning soft tissue into wet paste. He scooped the thicker remains into the chemical container. Bone fragments were discarded separately. All the while, their daughters, ages 3 and 4, were sleeping in the next level. Cartoons played on a screen. Mark would later describe tucking them in, washing his hands, and resetting the house as though nothing happened. Investigators described the smell in the laundry room as slaughterhouse strong, noting soft tissue stains visible under blacklight scanning. One detective said in court, he processed her body like meat. Not in rage. Inefficiency. After finishing the disposal, Mark washed his hands thoroughly and rejoined the life upstairs. He fed the children dinner. He served Kristina's father a meal hours later. He smiled, chatted. He said Kristina had gone out for a walk, she sometimes did. He declined to say when she would be back. Concern turned to panic when the children's kindergarten called. Kristina hadn't picked them up. Her parents arrived. Mark repeated his calm script. Her mother tried to file a missing person report. Mark ended the call. Against resistance, Kristina's father insisted on searching the entire house. Alone, he descended into the laundry room. He found the bag. He opened it. There was hair, drowned in a dark red stain. Panic took his mind, then recognition. He fell back. He screamed for help. He emerged crying, racing from the house, shouting orders to call police. Mark followed, still composed. He told Kristina's father, "You said you'd only come for a brief visit." When Kristina's father made that frantic call, the police arrived within minutes. Mark opened the door, acting stunned. Hands shaking slightly, he said he didn't know what had happened. They ushered him outside and took his statement. He repeated quietly, "I found her dead." I panicked. Inside that laundry room, officers saw dried blood soaking between the tiles of the floor, hidden, but visible once the lights were bright. One detective stepped into the bathroom beside it and noticed pinkish slush flowing into the drain. Chunked bits of tissue lay mixed with water. They followed the stain to a counter, where a standard hand blender stood, its jug stained with opaque smears of flesh, bone fragments, and white fat. In the corner, 3 clear canisters held amber liquid. Official records state they contained solvent, likely bleach or a lye-based chemical used to dissolve organic matter. In Mark's claim, they were just cleaning supplies. Investigators weren't convinced. Forensic teams began their work. A small ski marker outline traced a blood pool under the counter. The blender jug was sealed in a bag for DNA testing. Investigators took fingerprints, swabbed the drain, and bagged each canister. Upstairs, they photographed every surface, every chair, every dish, everything Mark might have touched. Their autopsy revealed strangulation as cause of death. The bruises on Kristina's neck were deep. Bruising consistent with pressure held for at least 2 or 3 minutes. Not a moment's slip, but a sustained squeeze. No defensive wounds appeared on her arms or hands. Her nails weren't broken. Her clothes weren't torn. She had been silent. Mark said he found her on the stairs. Investigators pressed him, "Where's the blood?" He couldn't explain. In the laundry room, bones and tissue lay everywhere. He told a different story, that she had attacked him with a knife. But the medical examiner found no wounds, no cuts, nothing consistent with his claim. In the interrogation room, Mark first cried. Then, he flatlined, no emotion. He mixed admissions and denials. He said he panicked. Then said he killed her. Then said he was defending himself. The shifting statements made the detectives certain they were facing an unraveling story. A forensic psychologist called in by the prosecution later described Mark as cold, dissociated, and focused. He showed no remorse, no regret. Just statements about logistics and cleanup. A transcript quotes him as saying, "I just wanted her gone. I cleaned everything." Investigators noted that phrasing hinted at premeditation, at calculation. Lab reports later confirmed bone and tissue in the blender jug matched Kristina's DNA. Solvent samples also turned up organic matter, human tissue, mixed into the chemical. One forensic pathologist testified, the body was broken apart with disturbing accuracy. This was not panic. This was planning. Precision. Yet another shocking discovery, the plumbing system in that laundry room had been flushed with hot water and then diluted with chemical. Investigators believe Mark had attempted to eliminate traces by running drains and pouring chemicals down. 2 of the canisters were empty. Evidence log. Fragmented bone shards. Distorted hand blender. 3 solvent containers. DNA-confirmed tissue. A toolkit containing jigsaw, garden shears, knife. No sign of a knife strike on Mark. Investigators found his phone records. He had an internet search for how to dissolve human tissue 2 days before Kristina disappeared. In the car, surveillance footage showed Mark disposing of plastic bags at a roadside dumpster that same morning. Police obtained financial statements. Mark had withdrawn cash, large sums, in the 24 hours before she died. Receipts showed purchase of industrial-strength bleach. Each piece dismantled the narrative he'd spun. Detectives told prosecutors, "We're not dealing with panic. This was methodical. He planned this until there was nothing left." As the police closed in, they discovered something even darker, an encrypted folder on Mark's laptop titled, Project Clean Exit. What exactly did it hold? That's what the trial would expose next. In the courtroom, the first testimony came from Kristina's father. He spoke through tears, "I saw my daughter's head in a bag. I reached in, touched her hair. I knew it was her. But her eyes. They stared straight back at me." His voice cracked. He paused. Next, a forensic pathologist took the stand. He showed photographs of Kristina's remains, the body parts that were reduced to unrecognizable form. He explained how internal organs were liquefied in the blender, then dissolved in chemical solvent. Bone fragments were scattered in jars. Flesh was absent. The image was clinical, but the impact on the jury was visceral. Mark sat motionless through the testimony. No blinking. No shifting. A prosecutor broke down during cross-examination, voice shaking, as the pathologist described the extent of the dismemberment. The tissues were processed surgically. Some fragments were fully liquefied. This was not rage. This was control. The defense did not deny the act. Instead, they leaned on psychological explanations. Mark's lawyer spoke of emotional breakdown, mental strain, but offered no denial of the violence itself. Investigators introduced phone records, showing searches for how to dissolve human tissue days before Kristina died. Security footage placed Mark at a specific dumpster late at night, disposing of black garbage bags. Bank records showed withdrawals prior to the murder. Every detail pointed to forethought. During witness testimony, a former colleague described how Mark structured his meals and routines, even after the crime. He attended appointments. He chatted with investigators. He was cooperative. He insisted he'd only panicked. Yet forensic testimony left little doubt about planning. In court, evidence included the hand blender, rust-stained with residue. Its jug shattered. It was sealed as Exhibit A. Test results confirmed human protein, fat, bone. The chemical samples yielded human DNA. Prosecutors played audio transcripts of Mark claiming he just wanted her gone, cleaned everything up. Even his words betrayed calculation. One psychiatrist called by the prosecution described Mark as dissociated and methodical, someone who viewed Kristina's absence as a project to finalize. Another expert testified the crime suggested a lack of emotion and intentional concealment. During closing statements, the prosecutor said, "This was not the act of a frightened man. It was the act of a man who erased his own wife, piece by piece, and then attempted to dissolve what remained." Mark did not cry. He did not plead. He remained seated, still. As the judge paused before verdict, a hush fell over the room. Outside, relatives of Kristina wept. Her small daughters sat in the gallery, hands held tight by their grandparents. The judge entered the verdict chamber but delayed sentencing, citing ongoing psychiatric evaluation. He confirmed life sentence was likely, though no plea of insanity had been accepted. This chapter marked a grim milestone. A man who once seemed ordinary, now facing the possibility of lifelong imprisonment for a crime brutal beyond comprehension. The courtroom's final scene, the jury exited. Mark remained silent, motionless. Kristina's daughters, now orphaned, live with her grieving parents. Their home once filled with her laughter now echoes with loss. Her agency, a tight-knit community, held a private memorial, whispering her name, folding grief into each candlelit tribute. Inside that home, her father hid the horror he found, but openly speaks of shattered innocence. At the memorial, every person spoke of Kristina not as a victim, but as a mentor, a mother, a woman with a future cut short. In online forums and social media threads, people asked, did he test this before? Was this rage, or ritual? Comments reread descriptions of the crime, dissecting each detail. Some questioned whether Kristina's husband had prepared methodically, clearly expecting this moment. News outlets faced criticism. Many headlines minimized her identity, referring only to Miss Switzerland finalist, omitting her name entirely. The way the story unfolded mirrored the crime itself, her identity erased, even in death. Speculation rose, some believe Mark had rehearsed earlier cleanups gone unnoticed. Patterns hidden in plain sight, minimal blood upstairs, timing while the children slept, chemical cans gone empty. Was this the first time, or just the most extreme? Psychologists weighed in publicly, pointing to isolated men with what they called sadistic sociopathic traits, those who compartmentalize emotions, who kill and then clean as if nothing happened. Yet no one knew if Mark showed warning signals beyond the domestic complaint. Kristina's name rose in feminist publications demanding recognition. This wasn't self-defense. It was femicide. She was labeled a headline instead of being named. Editors questioned why headlines led with horror details, not her story. Her life as a coach, a mother, an aspiring business owner. During a brief community vigil, attendees held photographs of Kristina, smiling, alive, instead of the horror image. They chanted, "Her name is Kristina." Many spoke of the betrayal. She trusted the man she wed, the father of her children. Now, 6 months later, custodial hearings discuss whether Mark's family, affluent, politically connected, will claim the children's future. Would they try to preserve his wealth and avoid full legal reckoning? Public outrage grew at that possibility. As the authorities weigh final sentencing, some survivors convene online asking, was Kristina just unlucky, or was this inevitable? Some theorize that her only chance would have been visible bruises, legal documentation, or an escape plan in place, but those steps came too late. Can anyone truly cleanse themselves of this violence? Can justice restore what was disassembled? Some monsters don't hide in forests. They tuck their kids into bed. That night, Mark washed the blender in the sink before bedtime. Imagine the absurdity. How would your mind handle deciding to blend a human body piece by piece? To liquefy bone and flesh into nothingness? To erase identity, to reduce human life to pulp? Picture every blade motion, every grind of tissue, until there's no trace but a chemical slurry. Most of us can't fathom such calculation. But it happened. Kristina's flesh, transformed into liquid. Bone fragments dissolved. Her body part by part unmade in a place meant for laundry and linens. Think, if you were in that house, watching cartoons in peace, how would you feel knowing your mother was being processed downstairs? The normalcy above masking terror below. Kristina's father faced that reality. He opened the bag. He saw her hair, her face, frozen in death. What goes through a parent's mind at that moment? Love, shock, recognition, then horror so deep it shatters everything else. Advocacy groups spoke out, calling this crime a tragic reminder of male violence against women. Of how the world can overlook controlling behavior until it escalates to brutal ending. This crime challenges our assumptions. Could someone you trust really plan this? Could someone you love disassemble your body methodically, and still smile at dinner afterward? Would you ever imagine yourself capable of such cold decision? Could someone in your life wear a mask until they decide to reduce a loved one to nothing? This is Bruised Voice. Think about what you've heard. Let it linger. And if you can bear it, like, subscribe, share, and comment how you carried the weight of this story. Because horror isn't just in movies. Sometimes it's in homes.